In this video, I'm going to give you an honest side-by-side comparison of Impression Moxche and Impression Isla Mujeres. Both of these are luxury, adults-only, all-inclusive resorts under the Secrets brand, and yes, I've stayed at both of them. So let's get right into it. And if you do like resort reviews and comparisons, please consider subscribing to my channel. 3 Days and Tres Noches brings you honest resort reviews, travel tips and information about the destinations that I go to, and show you can have an amazing vacation in a really short amount of time. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok. Let's start with the location because this is one of the biggest differences between these two resorts. Impression Moxche is located on the mainland in Playa del Carmen. It's about a 40-minute drive from the Cancun airport, and you're only about a 15-minute drive from Fifth Avenue, which is the main area with shops, restaurants, and nightlife. It's also a very convenient location if you want to do excursions because most of the major pickup points are nearby. Now, Impression Isla Mujeres is a completely different experience because it's located on the actual island of Isla Mujeres. So when you arrive at the Cancun airport, you have to take a private transportation to a marina and then take the resort's boat over to the hotel. Now, you do have to time your arrival around the marina pickup schedule, so there is a little more logistics that are involved. But once you're there, you're just a short ride or golf cart trip into town and Playa Norte, which was ranked one of the best beaches in the world. Now, I don't think one location is necessarily better than the other. It really just depends on how much time you have and what kind of vacation you are looking for. But Moxche is definitely easier to get to and it takes less time. Isla Mujeres requires a lot more steps and more time, but arriving by boat and staying on an actual island definitely gives the experience a more elevated and special feel. If you were thinking about doing some excursions from the mainland, just take that into consideration because you will have to take the ferry back to Cancun and then probably a taxi to wherever the meeting point is. Now let's get into the rooms. And this is a good time to mention that I do have separate, full, honest reviews of both of these resorts on my channel, and I will link them in the description along with full room tours of the exact rooms that I stayed in. So at Impression Moxche, I was in the Signature Suite Ocean View, which is a little over 900 square feet. The layout is beautiful. The bathroom is completely separate from the bedroom area, and the living space is pretty large. You also get a tub on the balcony, and of course, butler service. And the overall design here is very modern with darker tones and a Mayan-inspired aesthetic. So it feels very sleek, spacious, and high-end. Now at Impression Isla Mujeres, I stayed in the Signature Junior Suite King Oceanfront with the hot tub, which was around 764 square feet. So on paper, it is smaller than the room I had at Moxche, but honestly, I did not notice the size difference at all. The layout is very similar, separate bathroom area, bedroom, and living space, but the design is totally different. Isla Mujeres has a much lighter, brighter, more boutique, like boho vibe, and I actually personally preferred that aesthetic. I also loved the hot tub on the balcony. I also felt it was more private than Moxche, and it does also come with the full butler service. So honestly, both rooms were fantastic, and it's very hard to say which one was better, but I personally preferred the room at Isla Mujeres. It was more private, and I just liked the lighter, more coastal boho vibe decor. Okay, next, I know everyone wants to know which one had better food, which I will compare in a minute, but first I want to talk about the pools and the beaches, starting with the pools. Impression Moxche has 4 pools of its own, including an amazing rooftop infinity pool, and there's plenty of seating at all of them. And the one thing I absolutely love is that there are no upgrades here. Everyone is upgraded, and all the cabanas and lounges are included, and you get full poolside service. Now, what really sets Moxche apart is that you get full access to Secrets Moxche and preferred club areas, which is right there in the neighboring resort. So altogether, that gives you access to 13 different pools. Now, Impression Isla Mujeres is a true standalone resort with 4 different pools on all different levels, including a rooftop infinity pool just like Moxche, and there's plenty of seating and great poolside service. But here, it is definitely more of a smaller and boutique vibe. So you're not gonna find any pool activities or anything like that during the day. So if pools are the priority for you, then Moxche definitely gets the edge. Just the fact that you get access to another resort and you have the ability to hop between 13 totally different pool environments really makes it hard to beat. But Isla Mujeres is going to be for the people that are looking for true relaxation and more of that wellness vibe. Now let's talk about the beaches. So Impression Moxche is located in Playa del Carmen in an area that's not really known for having the best stretch of beach. So the pools are definitely the main attraction at this resort. But you can take nice long walks along the beach, and as long as it's not sargassum season, you can absolutely sit out by the water and even get in the ocean. But this area does tend to get hit with heavy seaweed during the summer months and sometimes before and after, which can definitely affect swimming conditions and even sitting on the beach. So one thing that is a little unique about Moxche is that instead of traditional loungers lined up in the sand, they have more of a beach club setup. There's actually a pool right there by the beach as well, but there's only one palapa for shade. Now the staff will happily pull loungers down onto the beach if you want them, but most people who want to sit directly on the sand will go over to the main secret side where all the lounges are. But that area can get a bit crowded. Now at Impression Isla Mujeres, the beach experience is completely different because you are on an island and the water there is usually that crystal clear Caribbean blue. It's absolutely stunning. But the beach itself is very small. It's also very private, which I personally love because only resort guests have access to it. So there's no vendors or crowds. And even though the stretch of sand is small, they have built this really cool deck that wraps around the water. It almost feels like a series of overwater bungalows with gorgeous loungers and seating, and it really does feel high end. It also has a cool water slide that goes right from the rooftop straight into the ocean, which was a fun surprise. Now, if you are someone who likes to wake up and take long walks on the beach, it might not be the resort for you, but you are only about a 10-minute taxi ride from Playa Norte, which has been voted one of the best beaches in the world. Now, in terms of the sargassum situation, which is just so hard to predict and it seems to be getting worse every single year, I definitely think this resort gets less of it compared to Moxche. So again, it is very hard to pick a clear winner when it comes to the beaches because it really just depends on what you're looking for. But for me, if I had to pick a resort solely on the beach experience, definitely Isla Mujeres wins. Now let's talk about the food because this is one of the biggest questions I always get. And before I jump in, I always like to remind people that food is very subjective. So what I love, you might not, and vice versa. So this is all just based on my personal experience at both resorts. Starting with Impression Moxche. The Impression building itself has 3 exclusive restaurants. But remember, as I mentioned, you also get full access to the entire Secrets Moxche side of this property. And over there, you're going to find 9 additional restaurants. So overall, the selection honestly is really impressive. So I stayed at Moxche longer, so I was able to experience more of the food there and ended up giving it an overall rating of 8 out of 10. And I actually ate most of my meals over on the secret side just because there were so many different options. But there's also a few restaurants on the Impression side that really stood out to me. One was El Cielo Rooftop, which had amazing views, an excellent lunch, and honestly one of the best burgers. They're actually known for that. And then the Beach Club, which overlooks the ocean, was another highlight. I had breakfast there one morning and the views and the breeze, it was just amazing. I also love when you stay at Impressions that you get access to the Preferred Club rooftop as well. And I had breakfast up there one morning. The views were incredible. And then there's Teodoro, the exclusive fine dining restaurant on the Impression side. Now this one does come with an extra charge unless you're staying 5 nights or more. And I didn't get a chance to eat there, but I've heard amazing things. It's a tasting menu concept, very elevated, and the chef has Michelin level training. So if you do get that complimentary dinner, definitely take advantage of it. Now over at Impression Isla Mujeres, they had 7 different restaurants to choose from. And I didn't get to eat at every single restaurant, but I did love everything that I had there and would rate the food a little bit higher, probably a 9 out of 10. But you have to keep in mind that there's definitely fewer options here than over at Moxche. And I think that plays a huge role in that because since it's a smaller, more intimate resort, the quality of the food feels naturally more elevated. And even the restaurants themselves, the service, the attention to detail, everything felt just a little bit more exclusive. Now, one of my favorite dining experiences at Isla Mujeres was at Unique, which is their rooftop restaurant. I had both breakfast and lunch up there, and every single dish was amazing. And then the Italian restaurant was generally one of the best Italian meals I've ever had at an all-inclusive resort. And I go into a lot more detail about every restaurant and the meals that I had in the full honest reviews of both resorts. But for this comparison video, it is really tough again to choose one because it just depends on what you're looking for. I could definitely see that if you were staying at Impression Isla Mujeres for a longer period of time, you might get a little bit bored or feel like things are getting repetitive simply because there's just fewer restaurants. Versus over at Impression Moxche, you get access to the entire secret side. So if you are someone who likes a lot of variety or might get bored with the food, then this is definitely something to keep in mind. Now let's talk about the bars and cocktails. Now over at Impression Moxche, you have two main bars on the Impression side, the lobby bar and then the one upstairs at El Cielo. Because this is an upgraded resort, everything here is top shelf. So the bartenders, the ingredients, the presentation, it is all elevated. Now over on the Secrets Moxche side, there are 12 different bars to choose from. And even though you don't get the exact same liquor selection you get on the Impression side, it is still very close. So the cocktails across the entire property are a solid 10 out of 10. And the fact that you get access to all of those different bars, including a really cool sports bar and even a speakeasy style club, just makes the whole bar scene at this resort really impressive in terms of variety and overall experience. Now, over at Impression Isla Mujeres, they have 5 different bars and every single one of them carries top shelf liquor. The bartenders, again, were very knowledgeable. The service was off the charts. And because this is a smaller boutique style resort, everything just felt a lot more personalized. And I was surprised that this resort had some nightlife because boutique resorts are usually very low key and quiet. So I was not expecting much, but they do turn the lobby bar into a club at night and they actually had some really fun themed nights. So I have to give both resorts a 10 out of 10 for the cocktails. But when it comes to the bar scene, again, it really just depends on what you're looking for because Moxche obviously has way more options, especially since you get access to the secret side. So if you are someone who loves a fun nightlife scene with variety like a sports bar, speakeasy, and rooftop, Moxche might be the better fit. But if you're someone who's really looking to relax and unwind and maybe have something to do at night if you're in the mood, Impression Isla Mujeres might be the way to go. Now let's talk about the activities and nightlife. Now Impression Moxche definitely has more options simply because it's connected to Secrets Moxche. And I know I've said this a few times, but I personally love the Dark Horse Sports Bar and their Speakeasy Club is such a fun hidden gem. But you also have a full schedule of organized activities all day long, everything from live music to volleyball to different pool games happening over at the main Secrets pool. And if you like a resort where there's a lot to choose from, then you're going to love it. Now, over at Impression Isla Mujeres, they also offer activities throughout the day, but the vibe is much more wellness focused. So you're going to see things like small group classes, sound healing, yoga, breath work, and other unique experiences. In fact, one day I did an ice bath right on the ocean, which was absolutely incredible, but you're not going to find those big pool games or high energy daytime activities here. At night, they put on some really impressive evening shows and they turn the lobby bar into a club, so you can still have fun at night without having to leave the property. But when it comes to water sports, Impression Isla Mujeres definitely wins because it's on the island and just where the beach sits, the conditions are perfect for snorkeling, paddleboarding, and kayaking. So if you love those type of activities, Isla Mujeres is definitely going to be the better choice. So again, it's not really about one being better than the other. It's just about what you are looking for. So if you want more liveliness during the day or more places to hang out and just more options in general, then Moxche is going to be the better fit for you. But if you're someone who's totally fine relaxing and you don't need big pool games and you really love those water sports, then Impression Isla Mujeres might be more your vibe. And finally, what about the service? Well, at both resorts, it is as close to a 10 out of 10 as you can get. You get personalized butler service at both Moxche and Isla Mujeres, and I found the butlers at each property to be equally attentive, responsive, and helpful. And the staff is very on par for Secrets resorts, where they are well trained, warm, and really friendly. Now, if I had to pick one, I would pick Isla Mujeres, only because it is a little bit of a different vibe. Since you're arriving on boat, you're staying on an island. It's very small and a boutique resort, so the staff has a better chance of learning your name and getting to know you, and it just felt more personalized overall. Some final thoughts on Impression Isla Mujeres versus Impression Moxche. Now, one thing we have not talked about yet is the price, because this is where you can see a big difference at times. Usually, Impression Isla Mujeres is pricier than Impression Moxche. So that is definitely one thing to consider when you are trying to decide between the two resorts. And honestly, I would return to both of these resorts in a heartbeat, but for different reasons, because I think they're very hard to compare because they do provide a completely separate experience. Impression Moxche is closer to the airport. You have access to the entire secret side, so there's more to do, there's more pools, there's more people, and it's just more of a traditional all-inclusive resort experience with that little elevated piece of having the Impression building and access to that. Versus Isla Mujeres really is that boutique all-inclusive resort feel because it is a standalone resort, and the fact that you have to take a boat to get there just makes it feel more exclusive, in my opinion. So if you are looking for that really bucket list destination, maybe you're celebrating a honeymoon or a wedding or a special anniversary, then that may be the way to go. I would say another huge difference is that Impression Moxche definitely attracts more groups versus Isla Mujeres. So they're going to get the conventions, the big weddings. Again, if the groups are all traveling together, and it can feel a little crowded at times. Versus Isla Mujeres, they just really can't accommodate huge groups. So not that they don't get them, I'm sure sometimes weddings go there. I don't know if businesses or conventions go there. I would doubt it just because they just don't have the room for it. So if you have been to both of these resorts, I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. And honestly, my final recommendation is to try both of them because they do offer completely separate experiences that are both amazing and that I would recommend to anyone. And of course, if you need help booking these resorts or any all-inclusive resort, I will put the link with the info in the description. And keep following me here at 3 Days and 3 Noches. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please like and subscribe. And you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok.